They said dragons, mermaids, angels, and giants were myths, until cameras caught them. Now the legends are stepping into the real world. In the dense, misty jungles of Papua New Guinea, something extraordinary has been spotted. Not once or twice, again and again, locals talk about a flying creature that doesn't belong in any known science book. It's got leathery wings, a massive wingspan, a long tail, and glowing red eyes. People in remote villages call it the Ropen, but to those who've seen the recent footage, it looks shockingly like what we all used to call a dragon. This isn't just about stories passed down through generations. A few years ago, a shaky video showed a huge dark figure soaring across the sky. It wasn't a bird. The wings were too big, the shape too unfamiliar. Viewers all over the world were stunned. Some thought it was fake, until others came forward with their own footage. Different angles, different locations. The same creature. Experts tried to write it off as a misidentified bat or bird, but the size didn't match anything native to the region. And then came the screeches, low, eerie calls echoing through the jungle at night unlike anything anyone could place. What makes this even more fascinating is how isolated these places are. Some villages are so deep in the jungle that they've had little to no contact with the outside world, and yet the descriptions are almost identical. A creature with bat-like wings, glowing eyes, and a tail that curls like a whip. Some say it glows faintly in the dark. That's right, glows, like something out of science fiction. But it lines up perfectly with the old native tales that speak of a glowing flying beast that guards mountain caves. And here's where it gets really interesting. Biologists have discovered species in Papua New Guinea that exist nowhere else on Earth. Some creatures were thought extinct for millions of years until they popped up again right there, hidden in the underbrush. So is it really that crazy to think something ancient, something we once called mythical, might still be hiding there? Maybe we're not discovering new animals, we're rediscovering old ones we stopped believing in. In 2017, something wild came out of Malaysia that sparked a frenzy online. It wasn't a legend, a rumor, or a sketch. It was an actual photograph, this one. A long, white, serpentine creature with small limbs, claws, and what looks like a horned head. And people didn't know what to think. Some said it was fake, others were sure it was a hoax. But for those who saw it with their own eyes, it was something very real, and completely unexplainable. The creature was allegedly discovered in a remote village after being spotted near a river. Local authorities didn't say much, but the photos kept spreading. The body was long, over 12 feet, covered in white fur, with an appearance way too bizarre to match any known species. It had legs like a lizard, but a head like no reptile anyone had seen before. No scales, no feathers, just that ghost white coat, and a stare that felt straight out of an ancient scroll. Here's where it gets more interesting. Malaysian folklore has long spoken of dragons, beings that slither through the air and water, watching over rivers and mountains. These aren't fire breathers like in Western tales. They're protectors, wise and powerful, sometimes appearing to humans when something big is about to happen. So when this creature was photographed, many locals weren't surprised. Shocked, sure, but not surprised. To them, the old stories never really went away. Scientists tried to explain it away as a mutated monitor lizard or an edited image, but nothing added up. The anatomy didn't match any reptile native to Southeast Asia. And if it was a hoax, no one ever stepped forward to claim credit or even provide the original source. The mystery stayed open, and that's exactly what made it so unforgettable. The footage showed a figure with a human-like upper body, shoulders, arms, even long hair, swimming with a powerful, fish-like tail. Not a costume, not a swimmer, something else. And just as the diver approached, the creature noticed the camera and vanished into the depths with unbelievable speed. The internet exploded. News outlets from across the globe picked up the story. Some called it a mermaid. Others tried to debunk it as a seal or a trick of light. But nothing fully explained what was seen. The tail moved too fluidly, too purposefully, and the head, it turned. It looked right at the camera, just for a second. That's the part that still haunts viewers. Local officials were so overwhelmed by the attention that they even offered a reward, $1 million to anyone who could bring definitive proof of the creature. That's not something you hear every day. You don't throw around that kind of money over a prank. Something made people believe. What makes it all even wilder is that the region has old legends of sea maidens going back generations. Stories passed down about beautiful sea women who appear in times of great change. These tales aren't new, but now, for the first time, there was video to go with them. This wasn't just a blurry photo or a fisherman's tall tale. It was filmed, it was shared. It was real enough to spark international curiosity. So the question remains, what exactly did the divers see that day near Kiryat Yam? A hoax? A new species? Or proof that some legends were always more than just stories? The image, taken by a local driver just before sunset, shows a winged figure mid-air, almost horse-like, with powerful legs and leathery wings stretched wide. The head is unnatural, almost goat-shaped, with what looks like a mane, and its flight path, dead silent. People who've lived in that area for years swear they've heard strange screeches in the forest at night. Not birds, not bats, something else. The Jersey Devil legend has been around for over 250 years. Described as a mix of different animals, horse, bat, kangaroo, and who knows what, it's said to have red eyes and a scream that can stop you in your tracks. But recently, more people have come forward claiming to have seen it in real life. Not in the distance, not through a telescope, up close, right in the air above the trees. Hunters, hikers, and even local police have told stories that match up almost exactly. No one can catch it. It leaves no tracks. And yet, it's always there, especially in winter or during storms. This isn't a creature looking for attention, it just appears. And disappears just as fast. Skeptics say it's a crane, a trick of the camera, or just a misidentified animal. But the witnesses? They're confident. They say what they saw had wings bigger than a man's arms and eyes that didn't reflect light. They glowed on their own. Could it be an undiscovered species hiding in the pine barrens? Or something older, something that's been living there long before roads or streetlights ever existed? One thing's clear. Whatever is flying through that forest isn't in any biology textbook. In the freezing waters near Antarctica, far from cities, far from crowds, something massive and entirely unknown has been spotted gliding just beneath the surface. It's called the Ningen, a mysterious pale white humanoid figure that has haunted Japanese research crews for years. According to those who've seen it, it's not a fish, not a whale. It looks eerily human, but stretches nearly 60 feet long. This isn't a myth told in some forgotten village. These reports come from government-funded expeditions, scientists, and sailors who've worked in the harshest regions of the world. The creature reportedly has arms, even fingers, and moves slowly through the icy depths, almost as if observing rather than fleeing. Some say it has a face. That's the part that sticks with people. The idea that something so big and quiet could look back at you from the black ocean. The sightings always happen in near silence. A shadow beneath the waves, a pale mass drifting in open water, disappearing just when someone tries to capture more evidence. That's what makes the Ningen so unsettling. It doesn't behave like a typical animal. It's slow, calculating, and stays just far enough to remain a mystery. Some say it's a type of giant sea creature we simply haven't classified. After all, the ocean is still one of the least explored parts of our planet. We've mapped more of the moon than we have of the ocean floor. Who knows what's living in the uncharted cold? In the quiet countryside of Cornwall, England, near the peaceful village of Ningen, something strange took flight, and the locals have never forgotten it. It started back in the 1970s when two young girls spotted a creature hovering over the old churchyard. What they described wasn't a bird. It was too big, too silent, too human. They said it looked like a giant owl, standing as tall as a person with glowing red eyes and enormous wings that spread wider than a car. And the strangest part, it wasn't afraid of being seen. It flew low, circled the church, and vanished into the thick trees surrounding the ancient graveyard. From that day on, people started calling it the Owl Man. Over the years, more sightings rolled in. Campers, hikers, and curious thrill seekers all described the same thing. An owl-like creature with humanoid features, flying without a sound and watching from the trees. Some even claimed to hear a strange screeching noise at night, echoing through the woods. Not a typical bird call, something deeper, more unnatural. Experts tried to explain the owlman as a large bird, maybe a misidentified eagle owl, but no local species fits the size or behavior. Besides, how could so many unrelated witnesses over so many years all describe the same impossible creature? Whatever it is, the village of Ningen hasn't been the same since, and those who've seen the Owlman never look at birds the same way again. Welcome to Scape or Swamp, where since the late 1980s residents have reported encounters with a strange, upright reptilian creature. It's been described as standing over 7 feet tall with greenish, lizard-like skin, glowing eyes and long claws. It walks on 2 legs like a person, but nothing about it feels human. The first major report came from a local teenager who claimed the creature chased his car late at night. At first it sounded too unbelievable to take seriously, until police investigated and found deep scratch marks on the vehicle, like something had actually tried to hang on. That's when things took a turn. Officers drew up an official sketch based on the boy's description, and soon, more people came forward with similar sightings. Different dates, different angles, but always the same terrifying figure. In the decades since, the lizard man has become something of a legend in the area. But it's not just a campfire story. A few years ago someone snapped a photo deep in the swamp. Blurry, yes, but you can clearly see a dark, upright figure, almost camouflaged in the trees. Whatever it is, it's big, standing still, and watching. That image circled the internet fast, reigniting debate about whether the creature could actually exist. Biologists say there's no known reptile that fits the description. Some believe it could be a misidentified bear, but locals don't buy it. They know what lives in their woods, and they say this thing doesn't match anything they've ever seen before. Whatever the truth may be, the sightings haven't stopped. The lizard man of Skapor Swamp remains one of the strangest and most persistent mysteries in the United States. And if you're ever in that part of South Carolina, don't wander off the trail, because something might just be watching from the trees. During the early days of World War I, as British soldiers faced overwhelming odds near the town of Mons in Belgium, something happened on the battlefield that no one could explain. Something that would become one of the strangest, most haunting stories in military history. Soldiers claimed to see glowing winged figures hovering in the sky, protecting them from advancing enemy troops. They weren't hallucinations, and it wasn't just one person. Dozens, maybe hundreds, described the same unbelievable sight angels in the smoke and chaos of war. These weren't quiet whispers or vague memories. Reports made their way into letters, diaries, even military dispatches. Some said the angelic form stood between the soldiers and the enemy, shielding them with light. Others claimed to see arrows of fire or hear voices urging them forward, giving them the strength to survive. At the time, the story exploded across newspapers, giving hope to people back home. But just as quickly as it spread, it was buried, called a myth or dismissed as wartime stress. But here's the twist. Decades later, researchers digging through war archives discovered sketches made by a few of those very soldiers. Rough, hurried, but clear enough to make out the shapes of towering beings with enormous wings, luminous eyes, and flowing robes. These weren't doodles. They were attempts to capture something real. Something they couldn't explain. The Angel of Mons became one of the first modern stories to blur the line between legend and reality. Was it mass hysteria, a shared vision triggered by fear? Or did something truly supernatural happen on that battlefield? To this day, no one knows for sure. What we do know is that brave men surrounded by fire and destruction saw something that gave them the will to keep going, something not of this world. Centuries ago, somewhere in the icy waters of the Baltic Sea, fishermen pulled in a creature unlike anything they'd ever seen. It wasn't a fish, it wasn't a seal, it looked almost human, but with strange, sea-worn features, webbed hands, and what appeared to be the shape of a bishop's mitre right on its head. That's how it got its name, the Sea Bishop. According to historical records, the creature was taken to a local king who wanted to show it off. But when priests approached it, the Sea Bishop made a gesture that shocked everyone. It seemed to bow and make the sign of the cross. The story says that when it was finally allowed back into the sea, it disappeared without a trace, after reportedly gesturing again as if in blessing. That's not something you hear in fairy tales. This was documented, discussed in actual historical writings by scholars and clerics of the time. Some dismissed it as myth, others were convinced it was a type of deep-sea humanoid, rarely seen and barely understood. Back then, the ocean was a world of monsters and mysteries, and this one wasn't hiding in shadows. It stood tall, looked people in the eye, and responded to human gestures. Was it real? A lost species? A forgotten aquatic intelligence? Nobody knows. But the Sea Bishop legend refuses to sink. It keeps floating back up, every time someone sees something in the deep that defies explanation. In a remote field in India, villagers gathered around something they never expected to see. A massive, human-like figure with enormous blue wings lying silently in the grass. No one saw it land, no one heard a crash. It was just there, as if it had fallen from the sky. Eyewitnesses were stunned. Some believed it was divine, others said it felt ancient, like it had been sleeping underground and had only just emerged. But one thing was clear. This wasn't normal. And the energy in the air, completely unreal. In the quiet hills of Pennsylvania, something massive took to the skies, and people are still talking about it. It was just another overcast afternoon when a group of hikers spotted what they thought was a plane overhead, but as it flew closer, they realized it had wings, feathers, and it was flapping. What they saw wasn't a machine, it was a bird, a gigantic one. They managed to snap a photo before it vanished behind the treetops, and that image spread like wildfire. The creature's wingspan was estimated at over 15 feet, larger than any known bird in North America. Locals started calling it a thunderbird, borrowing the name from native legends that speak of colossal birds with the power to summon storms with a single flap. And the timing? Just hours later, a powerful thunderstorm rolled across the area. Coincidence? Maybe, but many didn't think so. Sightings of thunderbird-like creatures in Pennsylvania go back centuries. From coal miners to forest rangers, people from all walks of life have claimed to see these birds perched on cliffs or soaring through stormy skies. No one's caught one, and they never stay long. But when they appear, they leave behind a strange sense of awe, like you've just witnessed something you're not supposed to. It makes you wonder what's still hiding in the skies above. The year was 1817, and the quiet fishing town of Gloucester, Massachusetts, was thrown into a frenzy when local fishermen began reporting sightings of a massive, serpent-like creature gliding through the waters near the harbor. Described as being over 50 feet long with a sinuous, snake-like body, the creature became the talk of the town. But it wasn't until the discovery of an enormous skeleton washed ashore later that year that the legend gained even more weight. The bones were unlike anything the townspeople had seen before, fueling speculation that the mysterious sea serpent was not just a myth, but a living, breathing creature. Scholars, skeptics, and sailors alike traveled to Gloucester to examine the remains, each offering their theories. Some argued it was a decomposed whale or an unfamiliar species of large fish, but others believed it was proof of a monstrous creature lurking in the depths of the Atlantic. To this day, the Sea Serpent of Gloucester remains an unsolved mystery, its story carried forward by those who dare to imagine what secrets the oceans still hold. While exploring a remote glacier in Alaska, a research team uncovered something terrifying buried in solid ice. At first it looked like ancient remains, but as the ice melted, what emerged was a humanoid creature with glowing eyes, elongated limbs, and a skeletal frame unlike anything seen before. The crew managed to capture images before the site was sealed off. Was it ancient? Extraterrestrial? No one could say for sure. But one thing was clear: it wasn't supposed to be found. In the rugged mountains of Kandahar, Afghanistan, a chilling story has been circulating for years, one that refuses to fade. According to several sources, a group of US soldiers encountered something that defied all logic during a mission in a remote cave system. What they found wasn't a hidden bunker or an enemy camp. It was a giant, a towering, red-haired humanoid figure standing over 12 feet tall, with piercing eyes and movements that were fast, precise, and intelligent. Whispers of a classified report began to emerge, claiming that the encounter was real. Some dismissed it immediately. Others pointed to tribal legends of giant beings who once lived in those very mountains. Locals have spoken for generations about mysterious beings who dwell in the caves, giants who only show themselves to those who stumble too close. The terrain is harsh, nearly impossible to navigate without being noticed, yet perfect for something, or someone, to remain hidden. Whether it was an ancient relic of the past or something more, the Kandahar Giant has become one of the most compelling and unsettling stories tied to modern military operations. Late one night in Jakarta, security staff at a small supermarket were reviewing footage when they saw something that left them frozen. The black and white feed showed a quiet, empty parking lot, until a glowing figure suddenly descended from above. It didn't crash or fall, it floated gently down, shining with an intense light. For a few seconds it hovered, then just as silently it shot back into the sky and disappeared. The footage quickly spread online. What made it so captivating wasn't just the figure itself, but how naturally it moved. No wings flapping, no sound, just a smooth descent and ascent, like something weightless. The cameras didn't glitch. The lights around the area reacted to it, flickering as it passed. Witnesses near the store later claimed they saw a strange flash in the sky that night. Skeptics tried to explain it away as an insect, a reflection, or a trick of the light, but people who watched the full clip knew it was different. The shape, the movement, the glow, everything about it felt intentional. It wasn't drifting like debris, it looked like it knew exactly where it was going. Some called it an angel. Others believed it was a being from another dimension. Whatever it was, it left behind a lasting impression, and a serious mystery. After that night, more reports came in from nearby neighborhoods about strange lights and quiet, low-humming sounds in the sky. Nothing was ever confirmed, but for many in Jakarta, that brief moment. For centuries, stories about dragons spread across Asia. Tales of giant lizards with powerful jaws, long tongues, and a gaze that could freeze you in place. People said they were real. Most didn't believe them. But then explorers reached the remote Indonesian islands and came face to face with something straight out of legend. The Komodo Dragon. At over 10 feet long and weighing hundreds of pounds, it was everything the old stories described: massive, silent, and deadly. Locals had always known it was real. The rest of the world just called it a myth, until it wasn't. The Komodo Dragon was discovered, studied, and accepted into science books. But the truth is, it didn't change. We did. We finally caught up to what some already knew. So what if the same thing is happening again, right now? A flying creature in Papua New Guinea, a sea being off the coast of Israel, a giant owl near a Cornish church, a glowing figure over Jakarta. They all sound like legends until you realize how many times before we've said, "That can't be real," and then been proven wrong. The world is far from fully explored. There are deep jungles, dark oceans, frozen mountains, and untouched forests where cameras don't reach and satellites don't see. And maybe, just maybe, some of the creatures we think are fiction are just really good at hiding. Komodo dragons were once called monsters. Now they're in zoos. So the next time you hear about a mermaid, a giant bird, or a winged being that fell from the sky, pause, because truth and myth aren't always that far apart. That's about it. Which creature impressed you the most? Write in the comments. For more useful information, watch other videos.